It's no secret that I am a Roxy stan. When she was first introduced back in season 4, I remember taking a quick liking to her. And I was so excited to see the new dynamic she would bring to the Winx Club after it had gotten so comfortable with 6 members. Especially given she was a protege, it would shake things up in a much different way from when Aisha joined the group in season 2. Unfortunately, Rainbow seemed to do everything they could to get Roxy out of the picture. In order to make the Winx appear 16 again and stay locked away in class forever at Althea, they needed to remove their mentorship of the young Roxy, to the point she appears older than them in season 6. As such, they kept Roxy from shining, keeping the Winx Club at a solid 6 members, and banishing Roxy to the background. Though this aggravated most viewers, myself included, Rainbow did try to appease fans by giving Roxy a handful of scenes in season 6, and making her a supporting character in season 7. Unfortunately, it was not nearly enough, and now it seems Roxy's existence has been completely erased. She isn't in season 8 at all, and with season 9 being yet another soft reboot, it looks like Rainbow is keen to forget that Roxy ever existed.
I forgot that you existed.
So, what happened? How did we go from 7 being the perfect number to this? Why did people love Roxy to begin with, and what could they have done differently to keep her in the club? If she was ever in the club at all. Winx was unique compared to other animated series, allowing its characters to actually grow up alongside of its audience. They started the series as 16-year-olds, and then became adults who graduated from Althea around 18 to 19. Season 4 then is the first season where the Winx are graduated adults, about 19 or 20. In many ways, it feels more juvenile than the first 3 seasons, but I at least respect its concept of having the girls grow up to deal with more adult problems on Earth. In theory. For full coverage of that, check out my video on how season 4 did not age very well.
Allegedly.
Still, one of the highlights of the season was the Winx's new pupil, Roxy, the fairy of animals and the last fairy on Earth. The Winx's mission in season 4 is to stop the Wizards of the Black Circle, fairy hunters who had stolen the wings and magic of all fairies on Earth, and are the reason why Earth is so terrible. In addition to making the humans believe in magic, the Winx Club's goal was to protect Roxy, as once the Black Circle captured her, Earth would have been doomed. Well, more doomed than usual.
You in danger, girl.
Roxy doesn't have many friends, instead preferring the company of animals, including her dog R2. There are close encounters between the Winx and Roxy in the first few episodes, namely when Stella shoos Roxy away from the window display before the Love and Pet shop opens.
Sorry, but we're not ready for the big reveal just yet. Whatever.
And when Roxy makes a snide comment on Stella's vanity when the girls go to the fruity music bar for the first time, ordering endless drinks while Roxy bartends.
I'll have strawberry and cream and make it a double.
Don't overdo it, Stella.
But it's for my hair, so it'll be even more beautiful and shiny. Wow, looks like someone sure is full of herself.
Wake up, Roxy! Are those smoothies coming?
Roxy is already getting a less than stellar impression of the Winx, which is hilarious since most of that is coming from Stella.
Don't be fucking
Rude. Are you kidding me?
And it becomes mutual when Techna discovers that someone is breaking Love and Pet's rule of 1 pet per person. See, the pet shop's purpose, aside from introducing toyetic elements for young girls, is to introduce magic into the lives of Gardenia's citizens through the fairy pets. Roxy, as an animal lover, is not a fan of this 1 pet rule, and as such finds a way around this to get a whole shed full of fairy pets to befriend. The Winx think it might be somebody up to no good, perhaps trying to sell off the pets secondhand. Instead, they find an animal lover who's quite rebellious, doing whatever she wants and doing it her way. And when they realize that she has magic and she is the last fairy on Earth that they've been searching for, Roxy calls them all nutjobs for saying that she's a fairy. And also for, cornering her. Stella did literally descend from the ceiling.
Nah, she doesn't look like a fairy. Fairies don't look like this. Fairies are elegant, kind, graceful. But above all, they don't hang out with rude dogs. Easier to...
While Bloom was excited at the idea of becoming a real fairy, having dreamed about it since childhood and loving fairy tale books into her teenage years, Roxy could not care less.
I don't give a fuck. Do I look like I give a fuck? Because I don't.
Admittedly, it's more of a headcanon of my own, but I really like the contrast between Bloom and Roxy. Roxy, in my mind, hates magic. She prefers a more grounded, mundane life in Gardenia with her father and her pets.
I have no intention of leaving Gardenia. My whole life is here. My friends, my dad. I'm not giving up everything to spend 3 years in a school so far away.
So being thrust into this magical quest of saving the world is annoying, to say the least. She's even hostile at the idea of being carted off to the far-off Althea College for a minimum of 3 years. And even beyond this distaste of magic, Roxy wants to make her own choices and live her own life. Though she must accept the reality of her being the last fairy on Earth and her world counting on her, she still has to choose to embrace being a fairy to fulfill that destiny. She's not going to passively go along with this. If it is not a future she wants, she's not going to tolerate it. Especially love the scenes where she's telling Bloom off, after R2 nearly dies. I don't know. It feels so nice to have someone put Bloom in her place, especially in season 4 where she becomes a Mary Sue.
Roxy, listen.
Leave me alone. If I hadn't met all of you, this never would have happened. I don't want to be a fairy.
Roxy is quite similar to many of the Winx. She has superficial connections to Bloom through being a lost princess who grew up on Earth, which I have mixed thoughts on, we'll get there later. But besides that, she definitely has Bloom's feistiness from the early seasons, Stella's sassiness and wit, Flora's love of the natural world, Musa's aloofness and occasional snarkiness, and tomboyishness, and Aisha's rebelliousness. As for Tecna, she has her hair, which believe me, we will get to. So Roxy is a saving grace of season 4, but what changed going into season 5? Before we continue, I would just like to ask you subscribe, ring that bell for notifications because YouTube hates creators, leave a like, engage, whatever the YouTube algorithm demands. I don't know what it is this week.
I'm so tired, child. I'm so tired. I'm really tired.
And if you enjoy my story analysis skills, you'll probably enjoy my other videos talking about different pieces of media, along with my urban fantasy novel, Disenerbus from the Ashes, is currently available on Amazon and wherever else books are sold. And I'm currently working on future books, so that's fun. Season 5 has a solid enough start, but all the red flags are there, especially for Roxy. When there's a convenient oil spill off the coast for the plot, Roxy says that she wants to help the Winx, but Bloom tells her to watch the people on the beach instead.
Bloom, I want to go too.
Sorry, Roxy. I want you to stay here. I need you to look after the people on the beach.
And if you wonder if I hate you,
This prevents Roxy from transforming and feeling like an active part of the group. She isn't even allowed to help like the specialists are. I don't know, not like it would help to ask all the sea life around the rig to get out of the way of the spill, or possibly escort any of the fallen workers to safety. Just let her be Aquaman, damn it. The same goes for when Tritanus and the Trix attack the beach. Roxy doesn't even try to help. She doesn't transform, instead cowering in the background with the civilians. The fact they don't even try to excuse this is telling, as Roxy has already been exiled from significance. Her banishment officially begins when the Winx return to Althea. Roxy is excited to begin classes, unlike her attitude in season 4. The Winx say that she's gonna do fine, and that's it.
Bloom! I can't believe I'm really at Althea. I'm so nervous.
There's nothing to be nervous about.
You're going to do just fine.
Thanks, you guys.
Roxy doesn't speak for the rest of the season, only being seen along with the other background students at Althea for the rest of eternity.
and if you wondered if I hate you, fuck you.
She gets no subplots of her own, we don't track her progress over the years like the Winx's 3 years at Althea. Roxy gets a whole lot of nothing. She gets a bit more to do in season 6, but not much. When the Trix conquer Cloud Tower for the 17th time because we have no clue what else to do with them, they turn Headmistress Griffin into a crow, because why not?
But you did this for what?
Why not?
Why?
Why not?
Why though?
Griffin escapes and the Winx catch her, giving her to Roxy to care for her.
It couldn't be in better hands. If anyone can help, it's you, Roxy.
It's incredibly contrived, both to deliver the news and exposition of the Trix's plans, which we could have figured out anyway.
So it's the Trix. They must be back at Cloud Tower.
Oh, Lord.
Again. Again. Nothing new, nothing changed, same old shit. Same old fucking...
And to get Roxy arbitrarily involved. It adds nothing to Roxy's character nor to the story. She doesn't learn from this encounter, she doesn't apply her new magical skills that she's been learning at Althea to do this, and she doesn't even get a relationship with Miss Griffin, like a mentorship. That would have been cool. Personally, I would have liked it if Griffin maybe had animal powers and like she became a mentor of Roxy the way Farragonda was a mentor of the Winx, and it could show how fairies and witches can learn from each other, but no, we don't get nice things.
This is why we can't have nice things.
Roxy is just kinda there for like 2 scenes. Oh, and I guess she also plays the guitar at the music cafe, so thanks, I hate it. Season 7 is arguably the most insulting, which is ironic given she gets more here than she did in seasons 5 and 6 combined. Given that 7 is a season all about animal rescue and the main villain Kalshara is building an army of fairy animals, you would think the Fairy of Animals would play a pivotal role in the plot. But she does not.
No, I'm a star! Please, I'm a star!
In the first episode, she escorts the Winx through the random Althea Natural Park, the latest addition to the Althea Mall, then doesn't help fight the bird when it kidnaps the Digmole. She just lets the Winx get beat up. I assume to prove how profoundly useless Bloomix is. Roxy does join the Winx on their first mission into the past. Yes, there's time travel in season 7, and no, they do not do anything interesting with it.
I guess nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed.
She transforms in a lazily animated recreation of her original transformation. Oh god, it burns my eyes.
Oh my god, what is that?
Fairy of Animals.
Oh my god! What is that?
And is relatively more useful than any of the other Winx. But unfortunately for her, or maybe fortunately given how ugly the new form is,
she's got a point.
Roxy does not gain Butterflicks when the Winx defeat the Stone Giant, despite the fact that Roxy told them to look to the Digmoles for how to stop it.
The Digmoles are fairy animals. If we free them, they'll know how to defend themselves.
I think we can do it.
And she's literally right next to them and caught up in the light. But nah, fuck that bitch. Yep, a transformation all about nature and magical animals, and Roxy, the Fairy of Animals, does not get it. Delightful. Oh, but don't worry, it gets worse. Because in the very next episode, Roxy gets her Stone of Memories stolen by Brophilius, a buffoon and one of the most irritating, terribly written villains of the franchise. Wonderful.
I'll use my Stone of Memories to go back to magic's prehistory and find the Cry-Cries.
Never have thought of that on my own.
It's time to stop! It's time to stop, okay?
This means that she can't time travel anymore, and she's officially worthless to the narrative. The most that she does from here on out is have plot birds who yell when a new plot cul-de-sac appears, yay. It's also made worse, given Roxy's stone got stolen because she wanted to do things her own way, and no one was listening to her, especially Bloom. What a surprise.
I'm the Fairy of Animals. Trust me. This is why Farragonda sent me with you.
She was trying to prove herself and was punished for it by the narrative. She then doesn't get a chance to redeem herself. The Winx aren't punished for pushing Roxy to this point, and they don't develop a newfound respect for her. It just feels like the show wanted to cement to viewers, no, Roxy does not matter, she will never matter, fuck you.
Fuck all y'all!
And then she's gone. Completely erased.
You better learn on her faces. She's gone, girl.
She's not in season 8, and I very much doubt she will be in season 9. Weirdly, she's a supporting character in the first season of the World of Winx spin-off who doesn't transform? Okay then, why even have her then?
Why? Why not? Why though?
But why? Why do all this to a fan favorite character? The reason is simple. Roxy is an obstacle. We've talked a lot about how Rainbow's goal was to keep the Winx eternally young for easy plot generation. By maintaining the status quo, they could theoretically make as many Althea plots for them as they want. No need for good writing, and all the money you could hope for.
We've got to have money.
How capitalism and the profit motive ruin art, huh? This happens in a lot of shows. They get a status quo and they're afraid to change it, so they just let the characters hang in perpetuity, no matter how sick of it the audience gets. I don't know, it's not like it's more interesting to have your characters grow up and age with the audience for new, interesting storylines. I don't know, it's not like that's what fans loved about the first 4 seasons.
And that's on a period.
Not at all, no. But in order to accomplish this goal, Rainbow needed to keep the numbers of the Winx Club low to make for easier plots, and they also, more importantly, needed to remove any indicators of the Winx growing older, including their pupil.
Oh my god. You're 40?
By making Roxy nothing but a background character with only a superficial relationship with the Winx, they managed to maintain the illusion of the Winx being 16 again, while paying lip service to Roxy fans. As I've mentioned, Season 4 is a bit of a mess, but Roxy is one of the best elements. However, her role is not perfect. I'm not a fan of the whole secret princess plot, especially because her being the daughter of Morgana, Queen of the Earth Fairies, introduces so many plot holes about the timeline of events.
Every sign of me disappeared as if I had never existed, but Oberon had made a mistake. Not all the Earth Fairies had been caught. One was too young to reveal her powers. That saved you.
And how the Black Circle didn't go, hey, maybe the Fairy Queen's daughter is also a fairy, even though they did have the sense to erase the memory of Morgana from Roxy and her father's minds. Real thorough work, Ogron. And just in general, I'm so sick of this idea because it implies that, you know, you can only matter if you're like a secret noble, if you're like an elite, like who you are innately makes you more important than commoners and peasants. Like the fact that the most important members of the Winx Club plot-wise are princesses. You may not have noticed that, but your brain did. Abolish the monarchy, Pulissa here.
I don't believe in queens.
Along with all of that, Roxy's powers could have used some work.
Get your fucking ass up and work.
While Flora is a fairy of nature, her powers mostly have to do with flowers and plants, and occasionally earth. It's a decent distinction from Roxy's animal powers, but to drive the point home, giving her more creative powers featuring the abilities and traits of animals would have helped a bit. It would have especially been welcome given it was also a season of generic energy beams. And then her design.
Another little white girl done fell down the well.
She's generally presumed to be a white girl, given fair skin and ambiguous hair colors and phenotypes tend to make people go, oh, white's probably the default here. But does the club need another white girl?
No. I said no. You can kill all that right now.
We've already got Bloom and Tecna, and if you want to argue that Stella is a white Latina, which I actually do like for her, Stella would still be white passing, so white. I think the club could use a little bit more diversity here. A lot of people were curious about my redesign of Roxy for the rewrite where I made her brown skinned. For why that isn't that big of a deal, I recommend Veritas Joe's video about blackwashing, but to summarize, it's about allowing for more representation of underrepresented groups, and it's not at all the same as whitewashing, which steals already rare representation away from marginalized groups. Basically, look at it this way. One group is heavily more represented than the other group to the point that they are the default. Does Group A, that it gets to be the default, really need to steal representation away from Group B, who is already begging for representation? Specifically, I made Roxy South Asian, given Musa is East Asian. Roxy is a mix of Indian and Malay, and I would likely adjust the stories of her parents as well as little design elements of her family to show her heritage, as well as cast an actress of that background to voice Roxy. Representation matters, period. Plus, it would mean that Flora and Aisha would not have to be the only dark-skinned girls of the bunch. On top of that, because Roxy has pink hair, it makes a lot of people confuse her for Tecna, especially casual fans. I remember a lot of people thought she was Tecna's sister when she was first introduced. It's just bizarre to have two white girls with pink hair. By having Roxy be dark-skinned and adjusting the shade of pink in her hair, it allows her to remain visually distinct. I tend to give her more strawberry and red shades of pink to complement the greens in her design. And speaking of her greens, while I do like green as her main color, it does cause a bit of conflict between her and Aisha. Aisha is a bit of an odd case since her main color tends to oscillate between blue and green depending on the form. Her Magic Winx is green, her Believix is blue, and even her Enchantix switched from blue to green 3/4 of the way through season 3. The blue one is better, fight me. To keep things consistent and to keep Bloom's blue and Roxy's green, it would probably help to have Aisha's palette be more of a turquoisey color. Play up the ocean vibe. Roxy, meanwhile, could have more earthy, foresty greens, as well as some yellow accents in her color palette to differentiate from the pink accents in Aisha's. Originally, Roxy's color seemed like it would have been indigo, but thank God they did not go that route. She already looks too much like Tecna, we don't need her stealing purple too. And design aside, the show has always had little nuggets of queer representation.
Just he can never not be gay for 5 seconds. I'm just like, can you not be gay for 5 minutes?
Murta's coding as a witch who becomes a fairy really hits home for trans viewers.
It's that trans magic loser, Murta!
You know that girl?
Yeah, she claims to be a fairy who just happened to be born into a witch's body.
And she and Lucy's friendship is giving bitter lesbian exes who eventually make up.
And they were roommates.
Oh my god, they were roommates.
And we all know that Palladium and Avalon are an item. The show has always been a haven for queer viewers, and I think having some queer members of the Winx Club themselves would really help with that, including Roxy. Look, she just gives this confident sapphic energy. I don't know what to tell you. Actually, I do. She's sapphic. She's a lesbian queen. End of story. And I would love her to have a girlfriend. I know she has a boyfriend in the comics named Manuel, but he looks like Discount Sky. I refuse to accept this on the basis that it is trash. Roxy deserves better, and so do you, audience. Sapphic Roxy for life. And most importantly, I really wish they had Roxy build relationships with all of the Winx. This would have gone nicely with a more character-driven focus like Season 2, with Roxy learning from each of the Winx individually, and in turn, them learning from her. Instead, canon makes it seem like only Bloom cares about Roxy, and everyone else simply tolerates her existence to varying degrees. I try to do this a bit more in my rewrites, as well as have Roxy have her own life outside the club. In the Season 5 rewrite, though she does try to be involved with the Winx, she still has classes at Alfea to worry about, along with conflicts with her dorm mates, one being Princess Crystal, and her little friendship with Nut the janitor. She doesn't really commit to being a member of the club until they lose their powers in the mid-season finale. Given Earth Fairies retain their magic, it allows Roxy some time to shine while the other Winx have to work without their powers, and also allows Roxy to prove herself to gain Cyrenix, joining them full-time in the second half. That can seem a bit strange given she's so much younger than the others, and her form was never really explained like the others. Its aesthetic is very similar to Magic Winx, but the marketing in giant wings made it feel more like Believix, likely to make her dolls feel more cohesive alongside the Winx's. Remember what I said about the profit motive and capitalism ruining art? However that is solved, including introducing a different power system for Earth Fairies, I feel like it would help to have Roxy struggle as a sort of gifted, advanced kid. You know the type, advances in many subjects, considered best in the class, has all these expectations, only to burn out early in young adulthood and become aimless, depressed, and self-loathing as they realize the system that upheld them and praised them is actually really shitty and doesn't give a shit about them as people.
Maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's clinical depression.
That could work really well for Roxy, having her feel isolated from both peers her own age, as well as the Winx given how much older they are than her. Given how Roxy tended to be a bit of a loner to begin with, this new situation probably is not helping her, and that could give way to a lot of interesting stories for her character. Ones which I may or may not explore in the Season 6 rewrite, hello! All in all, I love Roxy. She's a fun, interesting character with a lot of potential that the show has been squandering for over a decade now. Wow. She deserved a better story. Even if she didn't become the 7th Winx, they still owed her more than exiling her to the background forever. May she live on in our fan fictions. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more content like this from me, then you can subscribe and ring that bell for notifications because YouTube hates creators. If you would like to support me and the channel further, then you can pledge your support over on Patreon, give a donation via the super thanks button down below, and check out my urban fantasy novel, Diseneribus from the Ashes, wherever books are sold. I'm the Unicorn of War, and Roxy is the Sapphic icon.